Let's bring in the senior member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the vice chairman of the Select Committee on Senate Intelligence, Florida Senator Marco Rubio. Senator, always good to see you.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Sir, you know, I think for many people, when they think of war, they think of tanks moving about, bullets flying. But in reality, these days, I think a war can look like cyber attacks, Russia attacking our physical infrastructure like electrical grids, water supplies. And the big question is how prepared is the United States, both our public infrastructure and our private sector companies, for this kind of asymmetrical warfare?
Yeah, first of all, on the first point, you're right. We're in an era of hybrid warfare, which includes the tanks and the rockets and the fighter planes and all of that. But it also includes information, you know, overloading websites, overloading social media, putting out fake narratives and the like. It includes space warfare, blinding satellites, impacting their ability to function, guidance systems and the like. Cyber attacks against the economies and or the military or both. Electronic attacks which disrupt telecommunications and internet. You're seeing that happening as we speak in Ukraine right now, especially in the eastern provinces. And so all of these elements come into play in this hybrid warfare. As far as how prepared we are, look, this is a nation state, right? They're spending millions of dollars a year gaining accesses to sensitive information. And, you know, we're as vulnerable as our weakest water department or our weakest utility company and perhaps our banks as well. We're vulnerable. Now, I think the question becomes, so is every country in the world, so is Russia. The question really is how quickly can we mitigate against it? How quickly can we identify it and restore it? And how disruptive it becomes. What makes cyber warfare so dangerous, no one's ever fought a cyber war. We've had cyber skirmishes and cyber attacks, but never, it's not a precise weapon. So you might think you're shutting down the power grid in some small city in America, but you end up hitting a hospital system or something else, and the impacts are much greater than you thought they would be. And that begins a cycle of real nasty escalation that could get messy really fast.
Senator, President Biden says he doesn't want to go to war with Russia, but if they start launching massive cyber attacks on the U.S., as DHS has already warned American companies to be on high alert for, how should we be responding? Should we be prepared to attack them in the same way? And is that a type of war with Russia?
Well, Lindsay, I can't tell you. I've asked that question in specific because one of the things I'm very interested in is what is our escalation ladder? Like, what would we do if they do this? How would we do that, and how would we respond? And my concern with all this sort of cyber combat is there comes a point where one of the two sides runs out of options, and then they move to kinetic, right? They move to military action or going after a satellite in space, which could in turn lead to kinetic action down on Earth. So I've asked that. I can't tell you what their answer was, obviously, because it's classified. Suffice it to say that I would imagine that an attack would be met by some proportionate response in the same realm, and that cycle can continue going back and forth for some time. And my concern is that it escalates very rapidly into something much more serious. It's one of those things that I really think we need to think about very soberly, because it's a road no one's ever been down. There is no cyber doctrine. And there is no doctrine for, we know what happens if you launch an ICBM against the United States. We know what happens if a Russian bomber intrudes on our airspace. No one knows what happens if you inadvertently poison the water system of a small municipality in the United States and 100 people go to the hospital and 20 of them die. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying no one knows what happens when you do that and how do you respond to it. And that doctrine just hasn't been established. There is no understanding about it.
So let me ask you this. I know you can't disclose classified information, but let me ask it to you this way. Were you satisfied, one, with the answer they gave you in terms of the proportional response? And secondly, you know, most Americans right now don't want us involved. 26% of Americans think we should play basically no role in this conflict. And so the question is, do you think that we have a way to de-escalate this, to get out of this?
Well, I don't know about get out of it. This was going to impact us even if we ignored it completely, okay? And part of it is because Joe Biden is waging war on oil and natural gas in the United States. And so what that's done is it's made oil and natural gas from Russia much more valuable, right? The price of oil and gas goes up. It's one of the things that's contributing to Putin doing what he's doing right now. By the way, Ukraine doesn't have a lot of natural gas, but they've got the third or fourth largest reserves in all of Europe sitting there untapped in the very area that he's trying to take over right now. So I do think it's going to impact us in terms of energy prices. They're already already high. Don't let the Biden people tell you that Ukraine is the reason why you're paying $3.75 for a gallon of gas. It may be the reason why you're paying $4.01, but we could have prevented some of that if the U.S. were producing oil and natural gas. And he's basically waging war against those industries, canceling Keystone, not allowing any federal leases or new exploration to go on. And so, but it was going to impact us. So food prices, too. Ukraine is about 13 or 14% of the world's supply of corn and wheat. That means the people that buy from them, if that's disrupted, now our competitors in the rest of the marketplace raising prices for everybody. So it was going to impact us anyway. And as far as the cyber attacks are concerned, look, I mean, if there isn't a price, not a war, okay, but a price to pay for just taking over some country that belongs to me, I'm going to go and grab it. Well, today it's Ukraine, but I'm telling you, it won't stop with Ukraine. Iran has claims that they want to pursue that way, and obviously China does. I mean, China's watching this very closely. They today, I don't know if you guys saw, there was an inadvertently leaked instruction that the Chinese Communist Party gave to their state official fake media and what they needed to say, and they told them, be nice to Russia, because one day we're going to need Russia to be nice to us when we're taking on the U.S. over Taiwan. So they're watching this very closely.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about that because China yesterday also made it clear that Taiwan, in their opinion, has always been a part of China. So unlike these two regions in Ukraine that Russia is trying to claim that are a part of Ukraine, China is saying, hey, no, we've always seen Taiwan as a part of our own country. So if we invaded it, we essentially would just be going state to state. How concerned are you about those comments and the projection this essentially assumes?
Well, they've been saying that forever. I'm concerned because they have more capability and they're becoming more aggressive. I believe that we won't end this decade without them trying to do something about it. I think their preference is for Taiwan to say, look what happened to Ukraine. Look what happened in Afghanistan. I don't care what agreement we have with America or whatever. They're not going to come to our defense. They're not going to lose 2 aircraft carriers over us. We might as well negotiate with China the best terms we possibly can about how to reunify. I think that's the Chinese preference, for it to go in that direction. The problem is China isn't going to end just with Taiwan. They also have claims over the South China Sea, which means, brings them into direct conflict with Japan and the Philippines. And that's one of the most important shipping lanes in the world. So if they control the most important shipping lane in the world, it now means we're going to have to pay them a toll. Everyone's going to have to pay China a toll for some of the most important products in the world. It reminds us, by the way, that we need to bring manufacturing back to this country. We can no longer be as dependent as we have become on China for things like medicine, telecom, all these high-tech industry components. We've become way too dependent on them.
Amen. The music to my ears. Thank you for saying that. But before I go, I do want to ask you this. State of the Union is next week. My understanding is you don't plan to attend. Can you explain why?
Because it's an absurd theater, COVID theater, which I think has become a disease of its own. They want you to take a test and wear a K95 mask and sit up in the gallery and go through a metal detector and everybody. I'm done with all that theater stuff. Back in March or April of 2020, we didn't know a lot about this disease and we were a lot more careful about it. Now we've got vaccines, we've got treatments, we know a lot more about it. At some point, we got to end with this stuff. And it's just theater, it's just a game. So, you know what? I'll watch the replays on television. I don't need to sit there and go through all of that just to make them feel good about, how safe they're being and all that. And it's just, honestly, I'm just tired of all that COVID theater crap.
Especially, I think you folks in Florida know it better than anybody else. So anyway,
well, we're allergic to it here,
Senator.
So thank you.
Right. Well, I'm headed your way for CPAC. Look forward to hopefully crossing paths down in a good state of Florida. Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
You bet. All right. There's more.